In the vastness of space, humanity had reached a point that once seemed unimaginable. Centuries of exploration, scientific advancement, and sheer determination had allowed humans to leave the cradle of Earth and venture deep into the stars. Colonies had sprung up on planets that were once only dots of light in the night sky, and massive space stations orbited distant suns, bustling with life, trade, and innovation. The human race had grown confident in its place in the universe. Yet even with all its technology and ambition, it knew one fundamental truth: the galaxy was vast, mysterious, and full of dangers that no one could fully predict. This was not the first time humans had encountered alien life, but it was the first time they realized just how unpredictable and dangerous it could be. Over the decades, humanity had met species that were friendly, others that were indifferent, and a few that were openly hostile. The hostile ones were never fully understood. They were aggressive, cunning, and powerful, and encounters with them were often brief, violent, and terrifying. Among these species, the most feared by humans were the Death. Stories about them had circulated for years in military and civilian circles alike. They were called Deathworlders for a reason. Their home planets were barren, harsh, and unforgiving, and they themselves seemed to have absorbed that harshness into every fiber of their being. The legends said that the Deathworlders had evolved to survive conditions that would kill almost any other species instantly. Their planets were bombarded by radiation, battered by storms, and scarred by volcanic activity. Life there was a constant struggle, and over generations, it had forged creatures that were immensely strong, highly intelligent, and fiercely territorial. Humans had little understanding of the Deathworlder society or culture. Attempts at communication had failed, and each encounter ended in conflict or retreat. The Deathworlders did not seem interested in trade, diplomacy, or cooperation. Their motives were opaque, and their reactions were unpredictable. They attacked colonies and ships seemingly without reason, leaving destruction and fear in their wake. Military analysts had studied every incident meticulously, trying to find patterns, but the truth was simple: the Deathworlders were dangerous, and humanity had to respect that danger. Despite this, human expansion into space continued. The promise of new worlds, resources, and knowledge was too tempting to ignore. Humans had always been explorers at heart. Fear of the unknown could slow them, but it could never stop them entirely. The Human Interstellar Fleet, a massive organization responsible for exploration, defense, and protection of colonies, had grown alongside this expansion. The fleet was both a shield and a symbol of human ambition. It consisted of a vast array of ships, destroyers, scouts, carriers, and research vessels, each with its own purpose and crew. The fleet's mission was to keep humans safe while also charting new star systems, studying anomalies, and establishing contact with any intelligent life. Fleet commanders were trained for a multitude of scenarios, from peaceful negotiations with alien civilizations to full-scale combat with hostile forces. The technology at their disposal was extraordinary by Earth's historical standards. Ships were equipped with energy shields capable of withstanding massive attacks, weapons that could devastate entire enemy fleets, and communication systems that could reach across light. However, despite all this power, the fleet's leaders were acutely aware of their limitations. The universe was far larger than they could map, and countless threats could appear without warning. It was during this period of expansion and vigilance that a strange event occurred, an event that would shake human confidence and force the fleet into action in a way it had never been forced before. Deep in a sector near Deathworld-controlled space, a distress signal appeared. It was unusual not just because it came from a remote location but because of the way it was transmitted. The signal was coded in a format that human scientists had never seen. It was almost as if the sender had anticipated that no human technology could understand it immediately. Specialists pored over the data, trying to decipher the message. At first, some suspected it might be a technical glitch, an error in the communication channels caused by cosmic interference. Others feared the worst, that it was a trap, a Deathworlder trick designed to lure human ships into an ambush. But as analysis continued, it became clear that the distress signal was genuine. Someone or something was calling for help. The urgency was palpable. Every scientist, officer, and analyst involved in decoding the message felt it in their own way. The trembling excitement of discovery mixed with the chill of fear. The human government and fleet command faced a dilemma. Responding to the distress signal could save lives, but it could also place the fleet in immediate danger. The Deathworlders were nearby, their territory vast and largely unmapped. Any incursion risked confrontation with a species known for its brutal efficiency in combat. On the other hand, ignoring a call for help was something human morality and instinct could not easily allow. For centuries, humans had prided themselves on their willingness to assist those in peril. Whether fellow humans or other species, the distress signal represented a test of those principles in the harshest possible environment, deep space, near one of the most dangerous civilizations humanity had ever faced. As the fleet prepared for possible action, life continued on the colonies and space stations near the edge of known human space. Civilians and settlers went about their daily routines, largely unaware of the approaching storm. Some had heard rumors of the distress signal, whispered in corridors and mess halls. But the full scope of the situation was not public knowledge. The human colonies in these areas were a mix of thriving towns and precarious outposts. Supplies were sometimes scarce, and communication delays made coordination with the central government difficult. The colonists had learned to be self-reliant and cautious, especially with the threat of the Deathworlders looming in the background. Parents told stories of earlier encounters with the alien species to warn their children, blending fear with admiration for the fleet that protected them. Meanwhile, in the fleet command centers, officers and scientists worked tirelessly. They examined star charts, ran simulations, and debated every possible outcome. Every detail mattered: the speed of response, the composition of the rescue team, the weapons and shields required, and the contingencies for an encounter with the Deathworlders. Strategies were proposed, tested, and discarded in rapid succession. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Commanders understood that this mission would not be like any previous operation. It was not simply a routine patrol or exploration assignment. It was an urgent response to an unknown threat in a highly dangerous region of space. The stakes were immense, lives were on the line, and the reputation of the human fleet rested on their ability to act decisively and correctly. Despite the careful planning, uncertainty hovered like a shadow over every decision. Human technology was advanced, but it had limits. The Deathworlders had a history of using the environment itself as a weapon, leveraging storms, radiation, and extreme planetary conditions to their advantage. Humans could anticipate some dangers, but others could not be predicted. The fleet's analysts ran simulations of every known Deathworlder tactic, from direct assault to psychological warfare, but the truth was, no one knew exactly what awaited them. The signal itself was mysterious. Its origin was in a system that humans had only partially mapped, and the signals seemed to suggest an intelligent source under extreme duress. The implications were both thrilling and terrifying. Who or what was calling for help? Could it be a colony of humans cut off from communication, or an alien species in genuine peril? In these moments, the human fleet and government experienced something profoundly human, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and responsibility. The galaxy was full of unknowns, and every venture into space carried risk. Yet, humans could not simply turn away. It was part of who they were, part of their identity as explorers and protectors. The appearance of the distress signal was a call to action, an event that demanded courage, intelligence, and careful planning. For the fleet, it was both an opportunity and a challenge, a test of everything humanity had learned about survival, strategy, and compassion in the unforgiving expanse of space. This was the setting in which the story began. Humanity had expanded to the stars, confident yet cautious, powerful yet vulnerable. It had met other civilizations, learned some lessons, and survived countless dangers. And yet, the galaxy had a way of reminding humans that no matter how far they traveled, there would always be mysteries, threats, and choices that could shape the future in ways no one could predict. The distress signal near Deathworlder space was more than a call for help. It was the beginning of an event that would challenge human courage, ingenuity, and determination in ways that no one could have imagined. After the distress signal was verified, the human fleet entered a phase of intense preparation and anticipation. Every officer, scientist, and engineer involved understood that this was not a routine mission. The signal had come from a distant sector near Deathworlder space, a region known for its hostility and unpredictability. The urgency of the situation created an atmosphere charged with tension, a mixture of fear and determination that was palpable across the fleet's command centers. Teams worked around the clock, coordinating logistics, analyzing star maps, and running simulations to predict every possible outcome. For the human fleet, responding to a distress signal was standard procedure in theory, but the combination of the unknown source, the location, and the proximity to Deathworlder territory made this mission unlike anything they had faced before. The first challenge was understanding the source of the distress signal. Its code was unlike anything the fleet's experts had seen before. At first, it appeared garbled and chaotic, with fragments that seemed to contradict each other. Some parts resembled human communication protocols, but other elements were entirely foreign, hinting at an alien influence or interference. Specialists in xenolinguistics and signal processing were called in to decode it. Days passed as teams worked tirelessly, often questioning whether the signal could be real at all. Slowly, patterns emerged. Certain sequences suggested intelligent communication, possibly from beings in immediate danger. The urgency embedded in the message was unmistakable. Someone needed help, and time was running out. The fleet's leaders faced critical decisions. Dispatching a team immediately could save lives, but also risked the fleet itself. The proximity of the signal to Deathworlder territory was alarming. Intelligence reports confirmed that the area had been previously mapped only partially, and that previous attempts to monitor it had been met with aggressive resistance. The Deathworlders were unpredictable, known for attacking human patrols without warning and using tactics that were both sophisticated and brutal. Any mission in this region would likely encounter danger. yet ignoring the distress signal went against the principles and moral code of the fleet. Humanity had always prided itself on protecting those in peril, even at great personal risk. This was a test of courage, strategy, and judgment, and the commanders felt the weight of responsibility keenly. Meanwhile, the fleet began mobilizing ships for deployment. It was a spectacle of human organization and technological power. Destroyers, scouts, carriers, and support vessels were prepared for departure. Each ship had a unique role: destroyers for defense and heavy engagement, scouts for reconnaissance and hazard detection, and support vessels to provide repair, medical aid, and logistics. Crews trained rigorously, running through simulations and emergency protocols. Every officer and crew member knew that they were venturing into a region that could be a trap, and that caution would be just as important as bravery. The atmosphere aboard the ships was electric, a combination of fear, excitement, and determination. Conversations among the crew oscillated between speculation about the distress signal's origin and strategies for dealing with potential Deathworlder aggression. On board the fleet's command vessels, high-ranking officers gathered to review intelligence and finalize plans. They studied star charts, considered planetary conditions, and examined previous encounters with hostile forces. Each possibility was weighed carefully. What if the signal was genuine and a human colony was in danger? What if it was a trap designed by the Deathworlders to lure them into conflict? What if an alien species entirely unknown to humanity had sent the signal? Each scenario carried immense risk, and the commanders knew that their decisions could lead to success or catastrophic failure. They debated, simulated, and prepared contingencies, balancing urgency with caution. The stakes were enormous, and every choice mattered. The colonies and space stations near the outer edges of human space became aware of the mission's preparation. Civilians watched as the fleet assembled, sensing that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Rumors spread quickly. Some feared that an attack was imminent. Others hoped that lives would be saved. For settlers who lived on isolated planets, the fleet represented both protection and hope. These colonies were often fragile and vulnerable, relying on the fleet for supplies, communication, and defense. The appearance of the distress signal reminded them of the constant dangers lurking in the galaxy, and yet it also reinforced the value of human courage and solidarity. For many, it was a moment of tension and anxiety, a reminder that life on the frontier of space was unpredictable and dangerous. As the fleet approached the sector from which the signal originated, reconnaissance ships were sent ahead to gather intelligence and survey conditions. These missions revealed a vast and varied region of space. Some areas were relatively calm, with asteroid belts and gas clouds creating natural obstacles, while others were turbulent and dangerous, filled with radiation pockets, micrometeor storms, and unstable planetary systems. These environmental hazards added another layer of complexity to the mission. The fleet's navigators worked tirelessly to chart safe paths, but they knew that no route could be guaranteed. Every choice of trajectory, every maneuver, carried risk. Despite this, the fleet advanced, driven by the need to respond and the human instinct to aid those in distress. The first signs of potential conflict emerged during these reconnaissance efforts. Drones and scouts detected unusual energy readings in the vicinity of the distress signal. At first, it was unclear whether these readings were natural phenomena, remnants of past Deathworlder activity, or a sign of an active threat. Analysts pored over the data, trying to determine whether the signal was genuine or part of a larger, more dangerous scenario. Communications between ships were constant, with every new piece of information analyzed, debated, and incorporated into ongoing plans. The fleet moved like a carefully orchestrated machine, each unit performing its role with precision, yet all aware of the unpredictable nature of the mission ahead. Amid these preparations, the human crew faced their own personal challenges. Many were far from their families, serving on distant planets or massive starships. The weight of responsibility and the fear of the unknown created tension and anxiety. Officers spent long hours planning and coordinating, while crew members trained tirelessly to prepare for any eventuality. Stories of past encounters with hostile forces circulated among the ranks, both to inspire courage and to remind everyone of the risks. The sense of camaraderie aboard the ships was strong, forged by shared purpose and the knowledge that success depended on every individual performing their role effectively. This unity became one of the fleet's greatest strengths, giving them hope that they could overcome whatever lay ahead. As the fleet entered the sector, signs of intelligent life became more apparent. Unusual signals, patterns in asteroid movement, and subtle energy fluctuations suggested that the source of the distress signal was real and that someone or something was actively attempting to communicate. The tension aboard the fleet escalated. Officers ordered heightened alertness, and weapon systems were primed for potential engagement. Every crew member knew that they were entering a space where nothing could be taken for granted. Every decision, every maneuver, every action could mean the difference between survival and disaster. The anticipation reached its peak when the fleet finally located the origin of the signal. It was a small, remote planet with harsh terrain, barely capable of supporting life. The planet's surface appeared scarred by previous conflicts, and radiation levels were unusually high. The fleet's sensors detected signs of habitation, structures that hinted at the presence of intelligent beings. Some were human, some possibly alien. The urgency of the distressed signal had been justified. The planet was in peril, and the inhabitants were vulnerable. The fleet's command realized that immediate action was required, but they also knew that the environment itself posed challenges. Atmospheric instability, severe weather patterns, and potential Deathworlder intervention meant that the rescue would not be simple. The combination of unknown signals, environmental hazards, and potential hostile encounters highlighted the complexity of operating in deep space. For the fleet, it was a lesson in vigilance, preparedness, and adaptability. It was also a reminder that even advanced technology and years of experience could not eliminate uncertainty or risk entirely. Human ingenuity, courage, and cooperation would be as important as weapons and shields in determining the outcome as the early situation unfolded. The fleet moved carefully, balancing the need for speed with caution. Commanders issued orders for reconnaissance, rescue, and defense, ensuring that every element of the mission was coordinated. Crew members followed protocols, maintaining readiness while adapting to the unexpected. The atmosphere aboard the ships was a mixture of tension, hope, and determination. Everyone understood that this mission could define their careers, their legacy, and potentially the future of human expansion in the galaxy. The distress signal had drawn them into a scenario that tested not only their skills but their humanity, their ability to act with courage, intelligence, and compassion in the face of unknown danger. In this early stage, the story set the stage for everything that was to come. It introduced the dangers of space, the unpredictability of hostile species, and the challenges of responding to an urgent crisis. It revealed the human qualities of courage, determination, and cooperation that were crucial for survival. It showed that even in a universe full of unknowns, humans were willing to act, to explore, and to protect. The early situation was not just a prelude to conflict. It was a vivid illustration of humanity's place in the galaxy, a species capable of both extraordinary achievement and great risk, stepping boldly into the unknown while aware of the dangers that lurked at every turn. As the human fleet approached the planet sending the distress signal, tension aboard every ship reached a peak. The calm routines of training and preparation gave way to a heightened awareness that danger was near. Every officer, crew member, and technician knew that entering this sector meant venturing close to Deathworlder territory, a zone notorious for its hostility and unpredictable attacks. Despite all the simulations, intelligence reports, and planning, no one could fully predict what awaited them. The fleet had navigated dangerous regions before, but this was different. The combination of an urgent SOS signal and the proximity to one of the galaxy's deadliest species created a scenario that was both thrilling and terrifying. The first signs of trouble appeared even before the fleet reached the planet. Scouts and drones, sent ahead to analyze the sector, detected irregular energy signatures that did not match natural phenomena. These readings suggested the presence of advanced machinery or technology that was active, moving, and potentially hostile. Commanders realized that the fleet was being watched, perhaps even tracked. It was a reminder that the Deathworlders were not only aggressive but intelligent, capable of anticipating human movements and preparing countermeasures. This knowledge heightened the tension across the fleet. Officers began revising their strategies, and crew members were put on full alert, knowing that a sudden attack could happen at any moment. As the fleet closed in on the source of the signal, small skirmishes began. Unmanned Deathworlder drones, designed for reconnaissance and sabotage, attacked some of the scouts, forcing them to retreat and recalibrate. These drones were fast, heavily armored, and equipped with advanced weaponry that human crews had rarely encountered. The fleet's soldiers and pilots engaged them carefully, trying to neutralize the threat without exposing the main vessels to danger. The skirmishes were brief but intense, leaving a mark on morale. Crew members realized that the Deathworlders were not passive observers, they were active participants in this unfolding drama, prepared to defend their territory aggressively. Every encounter reinforced the uncertainty and the risk. The fleet's mission was no longer just about a rescue, it was about survival. Communication between the fleet and command centers became more critical than ever. Updates from the front lines were constant, detailing energy readings, enemy positions, and environmental hazards. Analysts worked furiously to interpret the data, while officers made rapid decisions to adjust the fleet's approach. Every maneuver had to balance speed with safety. The fleet could not afford to rush blindly toward the distress signal, but waiting too long risked the lives of whoever was sending the SOS. The tension between caution and urgency created a complex dynamic that tested leadership and the skill of every crew member. Decisions had to be made quickly, often with incomplete information, and each choice carried potentially catastrophic consequences. The first real confrontation with the Deathworlders occurred when the fleet's leading ships entered a dense asteroid belt near the distressed planet. The Deathworlders had set up ambushes, using the natural terrain as a weapon. Missiles and energy bursts came from unexpected angles, striking scout ships and forcing the fleet to scatter. The attacks were precise, coordinated, and relentless, revealing the Deathworlders' deep understanding of tactics and strategy. Human ships retaliated, but the environment made it difficult to coordinate attacks and maintain formation. Pilots had to navigate treacherous asteroid fields while under fire, dodging projectiles and maneuvering to strike back effectively. The chaos tested every skill and protocol that the fleet had trained for, pushing crew members to their limits. As the battle continued, human commanders realized that the Deathworlders were using psychological tactics as well. The attacks were designed not only to damage ships but to create confusion and fear. Unexpected maneuvers, sudden retreats, and deceptive energy signatures made it difficult for humans to know what was real and what was a trap. Crew members had to rely on instinct, training, and trust in their fellow soldiers to navigate the chaos. Officers coordinated through multiple channels, issuing orders to different squads and ensuring that no ship became isolated. Despite the confusion, the fleet maintained a remarkable level of discipline, a testament to the years of preparation and teamwork that had gone into building its effectiveness. Amid these rising conflicts, the fleet discovered more about the situation on the planet. Sensors revealed that the SOS signal was coming from a settlement under siege. Structures were damaged and energy fields suggested the presence of hostile forces. Smoke and fire could be detected from orbit, confirming that the distress call was genuine. The urgency became even greater. The people or beings sending the signal were not just in danger, they were actively under attack. The fleet's focus shifted slightly from reconnaissance to immediate rescue. Every officer and crew member understood that delays could result in casualties and potentially complete destruction of the settlement. The stakes were now personal. Lives were on the line. The environmental conditions on the planet complicated the situation even further. Storms, radiation, and unstable terrain created hazards that the fleet had to account for while planning their approach. Atmospheric instability made communication intermittent, and navigation through hazardous zones required precise calculations. Human ships, despite their advanced technology, were vulnerable in such conditions. Pilots and navigators had to adapt in real time, using skill and intuition to avoid disaster. Every step of the mission highlighted the thin line between success and failure, survival and catastrophe. As the fleet drew closer, the Deathworlders escalated their attacks. Larger ships, equipped with advanced weapons and reinforced shields, joined the fight. Human vessels found themselves outnumbered in certain sectors, and casualties began to mount. The fleet's medical teams were overwhelmed with emergency preparations, and repair units worked tirelessly to keep damaged ships operational. The rising conflict was no longer hypothetical, it was a full-scale engagement, testing every protocol, every skill, and every ounce of courage within the fleet. Morale wavered at times, but the determination to complete the mission and save lives kept everyone focused. The human fleet began to adapt its tactics to counter the Deathworlders' strategies. Coordinated flanking maneuvers, diversionary attacks, and precision strikes were employed to weaken enemy positions while minimizing risk to the fleet. Officers held constant briefings reassessing enemy behavior and environmental challenges. Crew members operated at peak efficiency, aware that any mistake could be fatal. The intensity of the conflict pushed everyone to the limits of endurance, but it also revealed the resilience, ingenuity, and bravery of human forces. Every successful maneuver, every avoided strike, and every small victory built confidence even amid overwhelming odds. Amid the chaos, some human ships succeeded in reaching the planet's surface in small, targeted drops. Rescue teams worked quickly to evacuate survivors, secure essential resources, and provide medical aid. These operations were perilous. The Deathworlders continued to strike unpredictably, forcing rescue teams to constantly adapt and improvise. Crews faced harsh terrain, damaged infrastructure, and the constant threat of ambush. Yet, despite the danger, human determination prevailed. Rescue efforts demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and teamwork could make a critical difference. While the conflict raged, communication with the survivors on the planet became possible. Fragments of messages revealed their desperation and fear. They described attacks, destruction, and the difficulty of holding their ground. Hearing these messages fueled the fleet's determination. Every crew member understood that their actions were directly affecting lives and that failure was not an option. The connection, however fragile, between the fleet and the survivors added a human element to the escalating battle, emphasizing the stakes beyond strategy and technology. As the rising conflict reached its height, the fleet's commanders realized that the Deathworlders were testing them, probing weaknesses, and assessing human capabilities. Every encounter, every attack, and every maneuver was part of a larger pattern of intimidation and tactical assessment. The fleet had to remain vigilant, adapting to an enemy that was not only powerful but intelligent and unpredictable. The intensity of the situation forced human leaders to innovate constantly, combining traditional tactics with improvisation and insight gained from experience. Each decision had immediate consequences, and the margin for error was minimal. Despite mounting casualties and environmental hazards, the human fleet maintained cohesion. Coordination between ships, clear communication, and trust in leadership allowed the fleet to counter the Deathworlders effectively. Every victory, no matter how small, bolstered morale and reinforced the fleet's ability to continue the mission. The rising conflict, while dangerous and exhausting, also revealed the strength of human organization, courage, and resilience. It was a testament to preparation, adaptability, and the unwavering commitment to protect lives and respond to distress signals. Even in the face of overwhelming odds. In the midst of this chaos, the fleet's leadership began to recognize patterns in Deathworlder behavior. Certain areas were defended more heavily, suggesting strategic importance or valuable resources. Attack patterns indicated attempts to separate and isolate units, testing the fleet's coordination and response. Human officers adjusted tactics, focusing on maintaining formation, reinforcing weak points, and ensuring that no ship was left vulnerable. The rising conflict became a battle of strategy and wits as much as firepower. Every engagement was a learning opportunity, revealing both the enemy's strengths and potential weaknesses, and allowing humans to adapt quickly. Under pressure, the rising conflict had transformed the mission from a simple rescue operation into a full-scale engagement. The fleet had faced ambushes, environmental hazards, and the unpredictable tactics of the Death. Casualties had mounted, and the stress on both personnel and equipment was significant. Yet, the fleet had also demonstrated remarkable resilience, courage, and strategic acumen. The early skirmishes and confrontations had provided invaluable experience, revealing the true capabilities of both the fleet and the Deathworlders. The mission, once considered a straightforward response to a distress signal, had evolved into a complex and high-stakes struggle, testing every skill, every decision, and every ounce of human determination. With the fleet engaged in continuous combat, facing relentless attacks and environmental challenges, the situation was becoming critical. Leadership decisions, crew endurance, and tactical ingenuity would soon be tested to the maximum. The rising conflict was a vivid demonstration of the dangers of deep space, the cunning and power of the Deathworlders, and the resilience and courage of humanity when confronted with the unknown. Every encounter, every battle, and every moment of decision brought the story closer to its pivotal point, where the mission's outcome would hang in the balance, and the true measure of human courage and ingenuity would be revealed. As the conflict intensified, the human fleet found itself facing challenges on a scale it had never experienced before. The earlier skirmishes and encounters with the Deathworlders had tested the fleet's strategies, skills, and endurance, but the situation was now escalating into a true crisis. The fleet had been carefully maneuvering to reach the planet from which the distress signal originated, but now the Deathworlders began to employ tactics that were far more aggressive, coordinated, and devastating. The fleet's initial confidence, grounded in training, preparation, and technological advantage, began to falter under the relentless assault. What had started as a mission to save lives was now a battle to simply survive. The first sign of a breaking point appeared when one of the fleet's largest destroyers, a heavily armored vessel with hundreds of crew members on board, sustained critical damage. A concentrated barrage from unseen Deathworlder ships struck its shields repeatedly, each hit testing the vessel's limits. Sparks flew along the hull, alarms blared through the corridors, and the crew struggled to maintain control. Emergency lights illuminated the bridge in red, highlighting the urgency and danger of the situation. The destroyer's captain barked orders, directing engineering teams to reroute power to essential systems and medical teams to prepare for potential casualties. Despite their training and composure, the crew felt the fear and pressure of the moment. The realization that even their most powerful ships were vulnerable was sobering and unnerving. The damage to the destroyer created a ripple effect across the fleet. Other vessels, seeing a symbol of human strength falter, had to adjust their positions and defensive strategies. Commanders scrambled to maintain cohesion, issuing rapid-fire orders to compensate for the sudden weakness. Communication channels were filled with urgent updates, distress calls, and reports of damage or casualties. Crew members worked tirelessly, coordinating repairs, tending to injured comrades, and responding to unexpected threats from the Deathworlders. The intensity of the moment brought out both the best and the most vulnerable aspects of human behavior. Bravery, ingenuity, fear, and doubt all coexisted in the same chaotic environment. The Death, recognizing the fleet's moment of vulnerability, escalated their attacks with precision and intelligence. Advanced weapon systems, designed to exploit weaknesses in human shields and armor, targeted the most critical points of the fleet's formation. Mines and automated defense drones interfered with navigation and communications, creating confusion and forcing human vessels to make split-second decisions. The relentless assault left little room for recovery, and the human fleet found itself stretched thin, struggling to protect its ships and personnel while still advancing toward the distressed planet. The Deathworlders' strategy was clear: isolate units, create chaos, and test the fleet's ability to respond under extreme pressure. Amid this chaos, the fleet's commanders faced a series of agonizing choices. Every decision carried significant consequences, and time was not on their side. Should they push forward aggressively to reach the planet, risking more ships and personnel in the process? Or should they pull back to regroup, potentially allowing the people on the planet to suffer further? The answers were not clear, and every option carried danger. Some officers argued for caution, emphasizing the need to preserve fleet strength and prevent catastrophic losses. Others insisted on urgency, pointing out that hesitation could mean failing to save lives. The tension between caution and urgency became one of the defining challenges of the breaking point, highlighting the difficulty of command under extreme pressure. In addition to external threats, internal stresses began to emerge. Crew members faced exhaustion, fear, and the emotional toll of sustained combat. Hours of continuous vigilance, intense combat, and the constant threat of death began to affect decision-making, coordination, and morale. Medical teams worked tirelessly to keep up with injuries and stress-related conditions, while engineers labored to repair ships that were under fire or damaged by environmental hazards. The human mind and body were being pushed to their limits, and even the most seasoned personnel felt the strain. The breaking point was not only a test of technology and tactics, it was a test of human resilience, endurance, and willpower. As the fleet pressed forward, environmental challenges compounded the situation. The planet's harsh atmosphere, unstable terrain, and violent storms created hazards that interfered with navigation, communication, and combat. Ships had to maneuver through dangerous zones, dodging debris, radiation bursts, and unpredictable gravitational fluctuations. Every move required precision, coordination, and quick thinking. Even minor mistakes could result in disaster, and the margin for error had become dangerously narrow. The combination of environmental hazards, enemy attacks, and mission urgency created a situation that was as complex as it was deadly. The fleet was operating at the edge of its capabilities, and every action mattered. Amid these challenges, small victories became crucial. Teams that successfully neutralized enemy drones, rescued stranded personnel, or repaired critical systems provided a glimmer of hope. Each success reinforced morale and reminded the crew that their efforts could make a difference. However, these victories were often tempered by setbacks. A ship could be damaged moments after being saved, or an attack could undo hours of careful planning. The breaking point was not defined by a single event but by the relentless pressure, uncertainty, and high stakes that accumulated over time. The fleet's ability to adapt, persevere, and maintain coordination under these conditions was being tested to its absolute limits. Asterisk on the planet's surface. The situation mirrored the intensity of the fleet's struggle. Survivors of the initial attacks were under constant threat, seeking shelter, defending their position, and attempting to communicate with the approaching fleet. Structures were damaged, resources were scarce, and fear dominated every decision. The link between the fleet and the planet's inhabitants became a critical lifeline, both symbolically and practically. The urgency of rescue efforts intensified as reports from the surface indicated that the Deathworlders were consolidating forces, preparing to strike in full force. The breaking point for the fleet was intertwined with the breaking point for those on the planet. The mission was a race against time, with survival hanging by a thread. Leadership decisions during this phase were crucial. Fleet commanders had to assess risk constantly, weigh the potential outcomes of every maneuver, and communicate effectively despite the chaos. Every order could save lives or doom them. Officers coordinated with unparalleled precision, balancing aggression with caution, and improvising when plans failed under pressure. Communication was constant, detailed, and precise. Crew members relied on trust, training, and instinct to carry out these orders, often under extreme conditions. The human ability to coordinate, adapt, and act decisively under stress became the defining factor in navigating the breaking point. Casualties and damage began to mount in a way that forced the fleet to confront its limits. Ships that had been heavily damaged required immediate repairs to remain operational. Crew members injured in combat needed urgent medical attention, stretching the capacity of onboard facilities. Every rescue, every repair, every defensive maneuver consumed resources and energy. The breaking point highlighted the delicate balance between maintaining offensive capability, ensuring survival, and completing the mission. Human ingenuity, courage, and resilience were the fleet's only means of navigating this extreme situation. The psychological impact on the crew was profound. Fear, stress, and exhaustion competed with determination, bravery, and hope. Moments of doubt were inevitable, as the relentless assaults and environmental hazards challenged confidence and morale. Yet, amid the fear, human crews demonstrated extraordinary courage. Pilots flew through debris fields under fire. Engineers repaired critical systems while exposed to danger, and medical teams worked tirelessly to save lives. Every action was a testament to human perseverance, highlighting that even at the breaking point, people could rise above fear and adversity. The breaking point also revealed the importance of leadership and trust. Commanders who remained calm, decisive, and focused were able to maintain cohesion and direction, even in the midst of chaos. Crew members relied on these leaders, trusting that their decisions were informed, strategic, and aimed at survival. Teams that worked together, communicated effectively, and adapted quickly were able to overcome obstacles and maintain operational capability. The breaking point was as much about human dynamics as it was about technology or tactics. How people worked together under extreme stress determined the outcome as much as any weapon system or maneuver. As the fleet pressed on, the Deathworlders intensified their tactics, launching concentrated attacks on key positions. The goal was clear: to isolate, overwhelm, and destroy portions of the fleet. These attacks pushed human forces to the edge, forcing rapid adaptations and creative strategies. Coordinated counterattacks, defensive formations, and risk-based maneuvers allowed the fleet to survive, but the cost was high. Casualties, equipment damage, and psychological strain continued to accumulate. The breaking point phase was defined by this relentless pressure, where endurance, adaptability, and courage were tested continuously. Amid the chaos, moments of heroism emerged. Crews risked their lives to protect others, carrying injured personnel through danger zones, repairing vital systems under fire, and navigating through treacherous terrain to maintain operational capability. These acts of bravery were not without consequence, but they underscored the resilience and determination of humans under extreme pressure. The breaking point was as much a story of human courage as it was a story of conflict. It demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming odds, people could act decisively, adapt to unforeseen challenges, and maintain hope. The fleet had reached a critical juncture. Ships were damaged, crew members exhausted, and environmental hazards remained as unpredictable as ever. The Deathworlders had demonstrated their power, intelligence, and ruthlessness, forcing humans to confront the reality of their vulnerability. Yet, despite these challenges, the fleet remained operational, coordinated, and determined. The breaking point had revealed the limits of technology, the importance of strategy, and the extraordinary resilience of human beings. It set the stage for the next phase, the resolution, where every decision, every action, and every ounce of courage would determine the outcome of the mission and the fate of those in peril. The breaking point phase was more than a moment of crisis. It was a crucible that tested every element of the human fleet: leadership, coordination, technology, strategy, and most importantly, the courage and determination of every individual involved. The events of this phase would shape the outcome of the mission, influenced future fleet operations, and leave a lasting mark on everyone who experienced it. The breaking point was the ultimate test of humanity's ability to survive, adapt, and overcome adversity in the vast, unpredictable expanse of space. After the fleet had endured the breaking point, with its ships battered, its crew exhausted, and its morale stretched to the limits, the mission entered a crucial phase: the resolution. This was the moment when all the preparation, courage, and determination of the human fleet would be tested against the relentless forces of the Deathworlders and the challenges of the planet under siege. Every officer and crew member knew that there was no room for error. Every maneuver, every decision, and every action could mean the difference between victory and catastrophe. The first priority for the fleet was to stabilize the situation. Damaged ships needed immediate repair to remain operational, while medical teams worked tirelessly to treat the injured. Crew members who had been on the front lines of skirmishes or who had experienced the worst of the chaos now had to regroup, reorient, and refocus. The exhaustion and fear from the breaking point still lingered, but the fleet's leadership emphasized a single guiding principle: adapt, fight, and achieve the objective. Commanders coordinated their remaining forces, analyzing which ships were capable of offensive maneuvers and which had to take defensive or support roles. This careful reorganization allowed the fleet to continue its advance toward the distressed planet with renewed focus and efficiency. As the fleet approached the planet, reconnaissance drones and scouts provided the most up-to-date intelligence. They identified concentrations of Deathworlder forces, potential hazards in the environment, and weak points in enemy defenses. For the first time, humans began to see a possible path to turning the tide. Commanders began to implement strategies that combined caution with calculated aggression, using smaller, faster ships to flank enemy positions while larger vessels provided firepower from a distance. Coordination between units became critical, with precise timing and communication determining the success of each maneuver. The fleet had moved from a reactive stance to a proactive one, using intelligence and planning to create opportunities for success. On the planet's surface, survivors continued to face immediate threats. Structures were damaged, supplies were scarce, and the Deathworlders' attacks had caused widespread chaos. The human fleet's coordinated efforts above orbit provided a lifeline. Evacuation procedures were carefully timed with fleet movements, ensuring that landing parties could reach critical areas without encountering unnecessary danger. Rescue teams, often working under fire, prioritized vulnerable individuals first: children, the elderly, and the injured. These efforts required extraordinary courage. As teams navigated rubble-strewn terrain and defended themselves against ambushes, the combination of fleet support from orbit and the bravery of the landing teams created the conditions for a potential turning point in the mission. Human strategy now focused on dividing and neutralizing enemy forces. The Deathworlders, though relentless and powerful, had vulnerabilities that the fleet could exploit. Coordinated attacks targeted critical weapon systems, supply caches, and command positions, disrupting enemy coordination and reducing their capacity for effective defense. Fleet commanders used intelligence from previous encounters to anticipate enemy tactics, avoiding traps and striking where the Deathworlders were least prepared. This phase required careful judgment, balancing aggression with the safety of human crews and the survivors on the ground. Every decision was weighted by the consequences, yet for the first time in days, there was a sense that victory was possible. The fleet also employed technology in innovative ways to overcome challenges. Advanced energy shields were deployed to protect landing parties. Temporary communication relays ensured constant contact between orbiting ships and the surface, and precision-targeted weapon systems minimized collateral damage while weakening enemy positions. Engineers and scientists aboard the fleet worked alongside combat teams, creating adaptive solutions for unpredictable problems. The combination of human ingenuity, technological expertise, and courageous action allowed the fleet to regain the initiative and assert control over the unfolding battle. As the fleet and landing parties advanced, human forces began to recover ground. Destroyed structures were secured, survivors were evacuated, and Deathworlder forces were systematically weakened. Each success, no matter how small, provided a boost to morale, reinforcing the belief that the mission could be completed. Crew members who had faced extreme danger and exhaustion now saw the tangible results of their efforts, giving them renewed energy and determination. The resolution phase was as much psychological as it was tactical, as confidence, focus, and determination became as critical as weapons, shields, and maneuvers. Communication between orbiting ships and ground teams was crucial in this stage. Real-time updates allowed commanders to coordinate attacks, direct rescue efforts, and respond to emerging threats quickly. Survivors, guided by signals from the fleet, moved toward evacuation points, relying on human coordination to escape danger. This coordination demonstrated the power of teamwork and planning, showing that even in the most hostile environments, human ingenuity could create opportunities for survival and success. The interplay between strategy, technology, and courage became the defining characteristic of the resolution phase. The Deathworlders, despite their resilience and aggression, began to show signs of disarray. Their attacks, once precise and coordinated, became sporadic as human forces targeted key positions and disrupted supply lines. Enemy morale weakened under sustained pressure, giving humans a critical advantage. Fleet commanders capitalized on these opportunities, implementing rapid maneuvers to encircle enemy units and cut off potential reinforcements. The turning of the tide was gradual but undeniable, as human forces steadily gained ground while minimizing further casualties. The resolution phase demonstrated that careful planning, adaptive strategy, and unyielding courage could overcome even the most formidable adversaries. One of the most critical aspects of the resolution was the evacuation itself. Rescue teams, moving in synchrony with fleet maneuvers, extracted survivors from the most dangerous zones. Landing parties used specialized vehicles and equipment to navigate rough terrain, transport the injured, and provide temporary shelter. The operation required extreme precision and coordination. A single mistake could result in casualties or mission failure. Yet, through teamwork, courage, and ingenuity, the evacuation progressed successfully. The human fleet not only provided protection but also ensured that survivors were safely guided to orbiting ships, where medical care and shelter awaited. Amid the chaos and danger, stories of heroism emerged. Individual crew members risked their lives repeatedly, often volunteering for missions that carried the highest risk. Pilots flew through heavy fire to deliver supplies or extract survivors. Engineers repaired critical systems under extreme pressure. Medical teams worked tirelessly to stabilize the injured in makeshift field hospitals. These acts of bravery, while sometimes unnoticed amid the scale of the operation, were vital to the success of the resolution. They demonstrated the courage, dedication, and humanity of those involved, showing that even in the most extreme circumstances, individuals could make a profound difference. As the human fleet consolidated its gains, the Deathworlders were pushed back, their positions neutralized or abandoned. Orbital control was firmly established, allowing for safer evacuation and reducing the threat to remaining ships. On the planet, survivors were guided to secure zones where they could be transported to orbiting ships for medical treatment, supplies, and eventual relocation. The combined efforts of fleet coordination, tactical ingenuity, and individual bravery had turned a desperate situation into a controlled, organized rescue. What had begun as a mission fraught with uncertainty and danger was now reaching a successful conclusion. In the aftermath of the combat, human leaders took the time to reassess the situation, ensured the safety of all remaining personnel, and stabilized the environment. Temporary shelters were established, medical care continued, and communication systems were repaired. Fleet ships patrolled the area to prevent any renewed Deathworlder attack while the final evacuation was completed. These actions highlighted the careful planning and adaptability required to fully resolve such a complex mission. The resolution phase was not merely about winning the battle, it was about restoring safety, order, and hope in the midst of destruction and chaos. Throughout the resolution, the human fleet demonstrated remarkable adaptability. By analyzing enemy behavior, responding to environmental challenges, and coordinating rescue and combat operations simultaneously, they were able to achieve objectives that had initially seemed almost impossible. Technology, leadership, and teamwork combined to create an effective response to a highly dynamic and dangerous scenario. The resolution was a testament to the strengths of humanity, intelligence, courage, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to protect those in need. As the final survivors were evacuated and remaining threats neutralized, there was a collective sense of relief throughout the fleet. The mission that had begun with uncertainty, danger, and fear was now on the path to success. Crew members, officers, and specialists reflected on the challenges they had faced. The relentless attacks of the Deathworlders, the environmental hazards, and the immense pressure of operating under extreme conditions. Every obstacle had tested their abilities, and their ability to persevere and succeed was a point of pride, camaraderie, and accomplishment. The resolution phase also provided crucial lessons for the fleet. Tactical strategies that had proven effective, innovations in technology deployment, and the value of clear communication and coordination were all carefully documented. The operation reinforced the importance of adaptability and creative problem-solving, showing that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, success was possible through teamwork, courage, and intelligence. These lessons would inform future missions, strengthening the human fleet's capabilities for encounters with hostile species and complex emergency situations. The human fleet had achieved its primary objectives. The survivors were safe, the Deathworlder threat in the immediate area had been neutralized, and the fleet had regained control of a dangerous sector near the distressed planet. Ships returned to secure orbit, crew members tended to repairs and medical needs, and leaders began to prepare reports and assessments of the mission. The resolution was not only a tactical success but also a profound demonstration of human resilience, adaptability, and determination. What had begun as a mission fraught with uncertainty had been brought to a successful conclusion through skill, courage, and cooperation. Humanity had faced one of its most formidable adversaries in a situation that demanded extraordinary bravery and ingenuity. The mission showcased the ability to confront danger, protect lives, and navigate extreme adversity. While there had been casualties and damage, the success of the operation reinforced confidence in the fleet, in leadership, and in the human capacity to overcome the most challenging circumstances. The resolution was a moment of triumph, not just in a tactical sense but in the human spirit, proof that courage, teamwork, and perseverance could prevail even in the darkest situations. The story shifted from uncertainty and fear to controlled action and measured success. Every individual, from the highest-ranking officer to the newest crew member, had contributed to the outcome. The resolution highlighted the importance of preparation, adaptability, and human courage, showing that even when faced with overwhelming odds and a relentless enemy, organized effort and determination could achieve extraordinary results. The resolution was both an end and a new beginning, a point at which the fleet could reflect on its achievements, tend to its wounded, and prepare for future challenges while taking pride in having completed a mission that would be remembered for years to come. The battle had ended, the Deathworlders had been pushed back, and the human fleet had successfully evacuated the survivors. But the aftermath of the mission was far from simple. The victory was hard-won, and its consequences were felt across every level of the fleet, the colonies, and even the wider human civilization. Ships that had survived were damaged and in need of extensive repairs. Crew members were exhausted, many having endured days of relentless combat, environmental hazards, and constant stress. Medical teams worked tirelessly to treat injuries, while engineers labored to restore systems damaged by weapons, debris, and the intense conditions near the planet. Even in victory, the fleet faced the enormous task of recovery, highlighting the true cost of interstellar operations in hostile regions. The immediate aftermath was filled with quiet moments of reflection for those who had participated in the mission. Crew members who had been at the forefront of battles and rescues found themselves grappling with the memories of what they had witnessed. Ships that had been damaged or destroyed left behind reminders of both their vulnerability and the risks they had faced. For many, the feelings were a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and gratitude. They had survived situations that could easily have led to disaster, and they had witnessed acts of courage, determination, and human ingenuity at every level of the operation. The experience was life-changing for those involved, reshaping their understanding of their own limits and capabilities. Commanders and fleet leaders also took time to assess the mission in detail. Reports were filed, data was analyzed, and debriefs were conducted to understand what had worked, what had failed, and what could be improved for the future. The operation had revealed weaknesses in strategy, communication, and preparedness, but it had also highlighted extraordinary strengths in leadership, coordination, and teamwork. Every tactical choice, every maneuver, and every decision under pressure was scrutinized to draw lessons for the future. These reflections were crucial, as they would influence the fleet's approach to future missions, particularly in dangerous or unfamiliar regions near Deathworlder territory or other hostile areas. The experience was a reminder that even in success there was always more to learn. Beyond the fleet itself, the survivors who had been rescued experienced a profound sense of relief and gratitude. They had faced unimaginable danger, and their lives had been saved through the bravery and ingenuity of the human fleet. Many were deeply affected by the intensity of the attacks, the chaos of the evacuation, and the destruction they had witnessed on their planet. Counseling and medical care were provided to help them process the trauma, and recovery efforts focused on rebuilding the planet's infrastructure and restoring a sense of safety and stability. For the survivors, the event was a vivid reminder of both the dangers of the galaxy and the courage of those willing to risk everything to protect others. The aftermath also sparked broader reflection across human colonies and space stations. News of the mission, its dangers, and its success spread rapidly, creating a mixture of admiration, awe, and anxiety. People were reminded that space exploration and expansion were not without risk. The story of the fleet's bravery served as both inspiration and cautionary tale. Humans could achieve incredible feats, but the universe remained vast, unpredictable, and often dangerous. For the scientific community, the mission offered new insights into hostile environments, alien behavior, and the challenges of interstellar rescue operations. Research teams analyzed data from the battle, mapping Deathworlder tactics, environmental hazards, and technological performance, ensuring that future operations could be conducted with greater safety and efficiency. That the psychological impact on the fleet's crew was significant. Many had witnessed extreme danger, made rapid decisions under pressure, and experienced both success and loss. Even those who had performed admirably were affected by the intensity of the events. Fleet leadership emphasized the importance of mental health support, providing counseling, rest periods, and debriefings to help crew members process their experiences. The reflection period allowed individuals to acknowledge their courage, understand their responses to stress, and rebuild their confidence. The experience, though traumatic, reinforced a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose, as everyone had contributed to a mission that ultimately saved lives and neutralized a significant threat. In addition to the human perspective, the fleet took time to reflect on the broader implications of the mission. The encounter with the Deathworlders highlighted the unpredictability and intelligence of hostile alien species. Analysts studied every maneuver, attack, and response to better understand the enemy's strategies and behavior. This knowledge was invaluable for planning future missions and ensuring that humanity could respond effectively to potential threats. The fleet recognized that while technology and firepower were critical, human creativity, adaptability, and courage were equally essential in navigating unpredictable and dangerous situations. The mission underscored the importance of preparation, adaptability, and teamwork in facing the challenges of interstellar conflict. The aftermath also brought attention to the effectiveness of leadership and decision-making. Under pressure, fleet commanders reflected on the difficult choices they had made, balancing the urgency of the rescue with the need to protect their ships and personnel. Some decisions had led to success, while others highlighted areas for improvement. Debriefings allowed commanders to analyze the outcomes of their choices, considering alternative approaches and identifying lessons for future missions. Leadership training programs incorporated these insights, emphasizing the importance of clear communication, adaptability, and decisive action in high-stakes situations. The mission had tested not only the crew's endurance, but also the ability of leaders to guide their teams through extreme uncertainty and danger. The technological insights gained during the mission were equally significant. Engineers and scientists analyzed the performance of ships, weapons, shields, and other systems under extreme conditions. Equipment that had performed well was identified for replication and improvement, while areas of vulnerability were noted for redesign or enhancement. The fleet's experience highlighted the importance of innovation, rapid adaptation, and continuous improvement in technology to maintain effectiveness in hostile environments. The lessons learned would influence the development of future ships, equipment, and strategies, ensuring that humanity remained prepared for encounters with unpredictable alien forces and extreme environmental conditions. At the strategic level, the mission's outcome influenced human policy and interstellar planning. The successful resolution demonstrated the capability of the fleet to respond effectively to crises, even in highly dangerous regions. However, the challenges faced also highlighted the need for better intelligence, preparation, and coordination in future operations. Military and civilian planners used the mission as a case study to develop protocols for responding to distress signals, engaging hostile species, and conducting rescue operations under extreme conditions. The reflection period allowed humanity to integrate practical lessons into long-term planning, strengthening resilience, readiness, and the capacity for decisive action in future interstellar endeavors. The aftermath also included a period of commemoration and recognition. Crews and officers who had demonstrated exceptional bravery and skill were honored for their contributions, Acts of heroism were celebrated, and stories of courage and ingenuity were shared throughout the fleet and human colonies. These accounts reinforced the values of courage, teamwork, and resilience, creating a sense of pride and motivation for future missions. The recognition of individual and collective contributions helped to foster morale and a sense of unity among the fleet, ensuring that the experience of this mission would have a lasting impact on those involved, and on future generations of explorers and defenders. Reflection also extended to ethical considerations. The mission had involved decisions that affected lives, both human and potentially alien, and commanders had to weigh the consequences of their actions carefully. The experience sparked discussions about the responsibilities of humanity in interstellar space, the importance of moral judgment in combat and rescue operations, and the value of protecting life even under extreme danger. These reflections were incorporated into training programs, policy discussions, and strategic planning, emphasizing that courage and skill must be balanced with ethical responsibility in the complex and unpredictable environment of space. The survivors, fleet personnel, and planners alike took time to reflect on the broader lessons of the mission. Humanity had faced one of its most formidable challenges and had emerged successful through a combination of courage, intelligence, coordination, and perseverance. The experience reinforced the importance of preparation, adaptability, and resilience, highlighting that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans could achieve remarkable outcomes. Reflection on these lessons strengthened confidence, informed future operations, and reinforced the values that would guide humanity in its continued exploration and expansion across the galaxy. During this period, practical efforts were undertaken to restore stability. Planets and colonies affected by the mission were rebuilt, resources were replenished, and communication networks were restored. Fleet operations focused on ensuring that the rescued populations were safe, healthy, and able to resume normal life. Engineers repaired critical systems aboard ships, medical teams treated injuries, and leadership maintained oversight of the entire process. The combination of reflection and action ensured that the mission's success was consolidated, and that its lessons could be applied in practical ways to improve safety, efficiency, and resilience in future missions. Finally, the aftermath period allowed the fleet and human civilization to consider the long-term implications of their encounter with the Death. Analysts studied enemy behavior, technological capabilities, and environmental challenges, using the mission as a basis for improving strategy, preparedness, and resilience. The experience reinforced the importance of vigilance, cooperation, and adaptability in interstellar space. Humanity had learned that even with advanced technology and careful planning, the universe remained unpredictable and dangerous. Yet, the successful outcome demonstrated that courage, teamwork, and determination could overcome formidable obstacles and ensure the survival and protection of life. The reflection phase emphasized the human capacity to learn, adapt, and grow from experience. Individuals reflected on their own responses to stress and danger. Leadership teams analyzed their decisions, and planners considered the broader implications for strategy and policy. The mission served as a case study in resilience, courage, and ethical decision-making, providing invaluable lessons for the future. Humanity's ability to confront danger, protect life, and adapt to unpredictable challenges had been tested, and the successful outcome strengthened both confidence and capability for future endeavors. The aftermath and reflection period was a comprehensive combination of recovery, learning, and preparation for the future. Ships were repaired, crew members recovered, survivors were resettled, and lessons were documented. Psychological, strategic, and technological insights were incorporated into future planning, ensuring that the experiences of this mission would inform humanity's continued exploration and defense across the galaxy. The events of this mission remained a vivid reminder of the dangers of space, the unpredictability of hostile forces, and the extraordinary resilience, courage, and ingenuity of humanity. The reflection period concluded with a sense of both humility and pride. Humanity had faced one of its greatest challenges in deep space and had succeeded through intelligence, courage, and collaboration. The experiences of the fleet, the crews, and the survivors would be remembered, studied, and celebrated. The mission had tested limits, revealed strengths and weaknesses, and demonstrated the importance of preparation, adaptability, and teamwork. It showed that even in the vast and dangerous expanse of space, humans could face adversity, overcome challenges, and emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable than before.